Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Shortcake Lover, father of none here, and we'll be going over Dan A today.
I am known
almost sounding
as
like an
Dan
egg white in
A.
Cantonese. It's
Nice
called
to
Dan
see
Pa.
you.
Supposedly a goddess that became human and has mortality now. Used to ferry souls to the dead in the underworld kind of thing was her backstory in the beginning. Wasn't paying too much attention, but early on in her gameplay it's really awkward. It's a little bit really slow until you get to higher levels with the free given gear that you're granted at like 90, 95, and 100 or whatnot. I'm hoping they're not designing characters around like the attack speed freeness that you get from those levels. But yeah, her gameplay is really slow and awkward early on. You won't really see too much early on about the mana bar and usage, but if you're playing characters like Arisha, she might be somewhat familiar to you for Dan A here. It's just that the operation applications are nowhere near the same. Just gonna go over the skills here one by one. So first off, Burial and Repentance were things I maxed early on because you'll be spamming a lot of these just for early dungeon clearance. Spirited Dash as well because it follows into that, and if you hit things with Burial then you get stamina back. One of the things about Dan A is that like most of her attacks can continuously keep flowing non-stop. There's no like breaks in between if you actually chain things properly. But the second attacks and third attacks, she only has a 3-tiered like smash. Would be like level 1, this is level 2, and that's level 3. And that's it. That's the end of her normal attack combo. So one of the things I avoided was combat mastery because there's very little normal attacks that you need to do with Dan A, and a lot of her attacks were mostly smashes. So in terms of skill importance order, I had Final Gate, Burial, Repentance, Smash Mastery, and Crit like increased to maximum as soon as possible because I tended to use these skills the most prior to like level 90 and beyond. Mostly spamming most of these two attacks entirely, and they're both smashes, and crit and smash pretty much increase it. Whereas combat mastery didn't really do too much for the damage output entirely. So combat mastery was sort of mostly ignored, even like at level 99 here. After that, you would want to raise like Soul Tracer and Soul Bearer just for like lowering the stamina usage and also the damage of Soul Tracer. Your hardest hitting skill here is Fickle Fate as well as Soul Tracer, so you want to bring up Soul Tracer and Fickle Fate up as soon as possible after the initial skills I mentioned there, as well as the Soul Barrier. Soul Barrier is like a block parry, which you can use to go straight into Soul Tracer into Fickle Fate. You want to bring Ritual of Ending up to max. This is her hardest hitting skill. It's a 500 SP like one chop drop, and it's pretty much an iframe the entire time. And as well, it restores like half your mana bar, about 200 mana on a single hit. And this thing is extremely powerful. You'll probably execute most bosses in like one hit prior to level 90 with this skill, and it just hits incredibly hard. Curse Breaker, when you learn this at about like level 40 or 30 or something, allows for the flow of like your attacks to be continuously chained further after Final Gate, Purge, and Unleashed and Vanquisher. And any of these smashes essentially, except for Burial and Repentance. Repentance and Burial are the only ones that cannot be like further chained into like Curse Breaker. So once you get Curse Breaker, you can start blowing your mana down a lot faster. It's really awkward prior to the point of getting Curse Breaker. So before that, you're only throwing like smashes, and then you're just awkwardly standing around or needing to use Spirited Dash to cancel out of the animation end in order to continue. So don't fret, Dan A is a little odd in the early levels prior to level 40 or like 30, but once you learn Curse Breaker, her flow is much better, and as her attack speed goes up, it gets more fluent. The problems is that like I feel like her SP isn't really used too much. Active Penitent Slash, Purify Evil, and Ritual of Ending and Mourning, they're all on pretty long cooldowns, and they only do like damage. They don't really have much function other than Mourning here, where you can vacuum small mobs in and do a machine gun hit into a tornado as shown in the tooltip video there. But the other functions they have is restoring mana. So one of the things I realized early on was that a lot of the mana was barely used because there's not really any way to expend it other than Soul Tracer. And when you use Soul Tracer into Fickle Fate and its Soul Strike attack, it only consumes like 70 mana and it has a 10-second cooldown. You want to use this just whenever it's on cooldown because it is your hardest hitting attacks, especially Fickle Fate. And the whole attack animation is parry and iframe, so just spam that right click once you tag something with the sword toss, and that's pretty much it. There is a delay you can do in between Soul Strike into Fickle Fate just to extend the animation longer, but it leaves you vulnerable during that animation gap, so you might not want to do that because you could get cancelled right out of it and lose your Fickle Fate. Fickle Fate isn't the one that goes on cooldown, but you have to chain it through Soul Tracer's Soul Strike in order to do it, so you should always just mash it straight through all the way to Fickle Fate. And then once Fickle Fate hits, you probably want to use Soul Barrier immediately, just so that you're not open after the last hit stands, because there is a bit of a weird opening where nothing happens after Fickle Fate, and if you don't Soul Barrier or Spirited Dash, then you might get hit. Which goes back to Soul Barrier. Why you want to Soul Barrier immediately is if there's another hit coming through. Soul Barrier works like Orisha's like mana shield block thing. So if you take a hit at the early points of the animation, it'll extend itself, and if it's like a multi-hit, you can probably block a number of hits with a single Soul Barrier instead of casting it late and then it only hits at the end of the animation when then you'll become open again. Even then though, like if you successfully do a Soul Barrier and it's the end of your enemy's attack animation, then you can go directly into the second hit of your smash combo and go straight into a Purge or Ascendance into Vanquisher or Unleashed, whichever one you do. If not, then you want to do a Spirited Dash right away. So you want to get used to doing that in succession back to back, so like either block dodge or like dodge into a block. So either one. Your controls are a little bit odd because like you also have to press tab to toss your dagger essentially, and also press tab again to warp into the spot, or either that it's tab again into tossing it into your enemy and then right click to counter attack with the Soul Strike into the Fickle Fate. It's up to you how you want to build it. This is just a guide and recommendation. It's not absolute. You can build her however you want. It's just that I noticed that I was using these the most early on, Burial and Repentance. But as attack speed goes up later on, you'll end up using Ascendance more and Purge as well. They're very easy to pull off because it's only like a two normal hit or a 3 normal hit into the smash. And Purge is probably used more often than Ascendance, but once you have high enough attack speed, I suspect that you'll probably be using Ascendance more often and just sort of rotating between all of them essentially at some point later down the road. Unleashed hits the hardest after Ascendance, is that one giant chop at the end. It's actually got quite a bit of range to it. So like it sort of hit, so I'm standing here and it sort of hit over here, but it actually sort of hits like almost up to here. So that distance is actually quite large for what it is for some reason. It hits a little bit beyond the visual striking wave that you see. So just to keep in mind if you want to get greedy and try and land hits from like slightly beyond your melee distance. Vanquisher, it's just kind of straightforward, but that's the only like notable thing I remembered about Unleashed. And that's pretty much it. So for numbers here, just so that you have an idea of mana usage, when you do a teleport or a Soul Strike into a Fickle Fate, a teleport and Soul Strike Fickle Fate is 70 mana. So 70 mana usage, 500 is quite a lot. You might be kind of lost as to like, I'm not really consuming mana too much early on and the bar is like almost full and it barely moves down. So just keep in mind, this is what I mean by you always want to use Soul Tracer into your enemies and just quickly drain mana as much as you can, because a lot of your damage comes through there. Right here, this is what I mean by like when you're just doing your runs or whatever, you just tag your enemy. And that's pretty much 70 mana right away. So when you're using Curse Breaker over here drains 60 mana instead. Alright, so that's, you want to always use Curse Breaker as much as you can until your Soul Strike and Fickle Fate is off cooldown, and then start using that. Okay, so once you start spamming your mana depletion, the thing is about generation next. So when you're generating mana, I guess here are the numbers that you want to know about, I guess. So normal attacks, like each strike is a little bit of mana. This is 4, this is 6, and this is 8 restoration. And then if you do the level 1 smash, this is 10 mana for that hit. This is 11 mana if you just spam this. This is Burial. So Burial, you can keep doing this. This is 11 mana, and if you successfully hit, it also restores like 30 stamina. So you could technically do this forever as long as every single hit connects. Level 2 smash, 13 on the poke. And then this is this double hit after that is 9 mana each hit. If both hits connect, and that's 18. Level 3 smash, this is 8 for the double swing, and then 22 on that last hit, multiplied by how many targets you hit. So if you hit like a group of enemies with that, you'll get a lot of mana back. If you're only hitting one enemy, like a boss, then you're only going to get those digits that I've pretty much spouted. And that's pretty much it to regain mana. On top of that, you want to know that your SP skills here, Penitent Slash, Purify Evil, Ritual of Ending, and Mourning. So you want to rotate these into your mana bar going down as well with your SP skills going up. You probably want to drain, the reason why you want to drain your mana as fast as possible is because some of these skills take forever on cooldown. So we're looking at like 30 to 50 seconds on Purify Evil. And even then, this is like you're totally vulnerable while doing this. I don't know why. They should have given this at least like a minor parry at the beginning of the attack, but you're completely vulnerable while using this, even though it looks like you're not. So that's unfortunate. And Penitent Slash is a giant wide chop. Try and use this as much as possible early on because it's just quick and dirty. It's like 20-second cooldown. It's very, very quick. And Mourning is good for mob clearance. It's 90 mana for all hits on a target. I think if you throw this into a crowd, like small groups of enemies, you'll probably charge your whole mana bar maxed out really, really quick. Same with Ritual of Ending. This is a giant drop chop. If you can use this as soon as possible, it'd be great because it's 3 minutes cooldown. And when you connect it, you gain 200 mana on that one single hit, or I think it's like 198, but whatever. It's 200 essentially, close enough. And that's pretty much it. Whereas the Penitent Slash, when you hit a target with this, it's a weird number of 69. I don't know why it's not 75 or anything, but whatever. 69 it is. So when you hit something with Penitent Slash, you get 69 mana back. Mourning is 90 mana back. Purify Evil, if you do all 3 hits, it's about 81 mana, so approximately 27 mana a hit. And then Ritual of Ending is 200 mana on a single drop chop. So one of the things about Curse Breaker is that you can use that whenever during a smash at level 2 or level 3 smashes. You won't be able to do that after Repentance, which is a level 1 smash. So you cannot Curse Breaker after this at all. The only thing you can do is Soul Barrier or just Spirited Dash. One of the things you want to do here is after every smash, if you see like an attack, you can quickly cancel it into a Curse Breaker, and during the attack, you're completely invulnerable. And once the attack connects and finishes, you're vulnerable, as you saw me taking a hit there earlier. But if you're just like slashing away, you can Curse Breaker and you'll be perfectly fine. So either be prepared to Spirited Dash right away or just Soul Barrier right after the Curse Breaker. And that entire attack sequence, like after I teleported into the target, is completely invulnerable. So just something to keep in mind. That's pretty much how Dan-A works. One of the other things about Dan-A is, as much as you want to just like non-stop relentlessly slash your opponent, sometimes you can back off, but re-engaging is usually really easy because you have that teleport tracer of your sword. So you can, if they're like really far away, you can just blink into them like that and then just quickly dash off. It's always safe to engage if you're using Fickle Fate and into Soul Strike, because you're parrying and invulnerable during those times or doing a block. But if you're just teleporting into the target, then you better be careful because you're vulnerable the moment you reappear, and it still costs 70 mana anyway. So if you want to figure out how you want to put that 10-second cooldown in between window to use or disable like your attacks and whatnot, and how to stay close. Another thing about Soul Barrier, as mentioned earlier, is the block leading into the second hit of your normal attack combo. So you just want to block a hit. Maybe not like that, but this is what I mean by it's a little bit weird because you gotta know like the monster attack patterns in order to utilize that attack skip. It's very small, but that's pretty much how you're gonna eke out like the tiny bit of extra damage over time against bosses, as long as you know what's going on. So this is what I mean by like playing Dan-A is a little bit awkward compared to the like usual characters, since her dodges are sort of in between smashes. It's not sort of like continuous, and it's not really like all the way all the time. You can obviously always keep running and just keep doing this as well. This is very safe to just keep doing this. This is how you block multiple attacks, just like that. And then once it's finished or you think it's near the end, then you can just like Oh, but then you'll run out of stamina, but you know. And then afterwards you want to do your blink strike, but I don't have enough MP to do it. Also, when you chain into the Fickle Fate, don't worry too much about if you're spamming this block chain essentially, if you're trying to survive like a flurry of attacks. Once you go into your Soul Tracer combo, into the Soul Strike, and as long as you go all the way through to Fickle Fate, you'll get your stamina back, so you can at least like get out and dodge right after Fickle Fate's hit, or just block again and dodge out. So that's one of the things you should not worry about too much, is like the defense chain that Donna has. But if you are just using your usual smashes and you never do your Soul Tracer, then yeah, you could run into a problem, and if you run out of mana as well. So this is what I mean by like, you want to use your SP skills as early as possible and put them on cooldowns while expending your mana as fast as possible. So if you expend all your mana and then you use your SP skills the moment you have SP to use your skills, then it's good to keep, that way you can keep your chain and rotation of survival and attacks on rotation essentially. So just the last few things here that I want to go over is just like skill awakenings. There's only a few notable ones, the rest you just kind of do it to yourself, I guess. I think Penitent Slash should honestly use reduced SP consumption, just because, or either one of the skills should have SP consumption reduction. Reasons being is you can actually use all your actives like almost back to back, as long as one of them is reduced by about 50 SP. If you add it up together, this is actually 300. This is 250, and this is 500, and this is 250. So the 250s and the 500 is 1000 SP, and then this is 300. But your bar can only go up to 1250, so if you actually really wanted to unload a full combo on your enemy, then you need 1300. But if you reduce one of these down, you can have 1250 essentially cover all 4 skills. But you do want to use them as soon as possible, especially the early cooldown ones like Penitent Slash. The AoE on this is enormously large, it's practically screen wide, so it's a good like single like chop hit that you need 69 mana back, which is enough for a Curse Breaker, or like one hit away from Soul Tracer, essentially pretty much restoring a dodge. Purify Evil is really hard to use because of how long and slow the animation is. The AoE attacks on this is very, very wide as well, but getting all 3 strikes off takes a while, and honestly, it's also dangerous too, so you need to use this during a weird opening and try and use it whenever you can, because the cooldown's pretty long. It's either 30 seconds or 50 seconds. It adds 10 seconds for every additional smash you put into it, and if you only use it one hit, then yeah, you're only getting like 27 mana back instead of 81 if you land all 3. It hits decently well, but I'd still rather use Penitent Slash because it's just much faster compared to how fast like certain bosses attack in later stages of the game. So Purify Evil is like not really a priority in what you should activate up. Mourning, you can snipe enemies and bosses with this thing, because if you charge it up when you hold right click the moment you activate it, then you can launch it like pretty far away. It's about the same distance as your Soul Tracer toss, so if you need an idea of how far that tornado goes at full charge, it's about that far. But charging it all the way full also takes a while too, rather than just pressing the button and standing there for 1 second and then it just unleashes a tornado like in the tooltip right away. Whereas if you charge it up like it's showing in the tooltip video there, it goes a bit much farther, but you do have to stand there completely wide open for a lot longer. So after that, once you've decided which skill probably should take a reduced SP consumption, the other one you want to look at is if cooldowns. So cooldowns, I don't know if you care about cooldowns or more damage, or like if you want to put all the eggs into one basket essentially, but like I think damage on ritual ending is really good because this thing hits so hard already anyways, so why not just push it through the roof and make it hit really, really hard. Or you can put it on reduce SP consumption on active Mourning throughout a fight, as long as you're remembering to use your SP skills as soon as possible. In terms of an artifact, I feel like Donna would really benefit from attack speed instead of like an SP gauge charger. Because of the long cooldowns that she has, I feel like SP isn't really too much of an issue with her. So I think a Werewolf paw would be really, really beneficial, because just from her early gameplay into like the higher levels of having like 0 attack speed all the way up to the free gear of 54 and beyond, bonus attack speed and getting your smashes off faster means you reach your you're opening for Curse Breaker to activate more often, which is a safety attack. So it's pretty much your iframe in the middle of a smash or after a smash. So, and it's part of your damage like cycle too. Except you'll just end up draining your MP more often, but you'll get your damage out a lot faster. So that's why I think like attack speed is much better for her. And like early gameplay, it feels like it's like Fiona early gameplay is what it feels like with her attack. So overall, I think she's okay. She's a bit odd to play with early on. Her mechanics are a little bit weird to get used to, but it's like a mix of Orisha and like Fiona put together. Except their applications are all different, obviously. And yeah, it's mostly like she's got openings and then iframes in between her attacks, and you can string them together forever if you're really, really good with her. So is kind of like a person that can be on the boss all the time, and then if you need to recover or like need thinking moments, you can actually just run away from the boss and then you just re-engage right away with the Soul Tracer if you have to just fly right back in every 10 seconds.
Live your
Alright,
best
and
life.
that's it for this guide. So here's some extra stuff just to show what I'm talking about, and I'll see you later. Peace.
Once upon a time. Fate has led me here. Death is only a new beginning. What even is an ordinary life? Death is merely a new beginning. Actually, dead men tell many tales, you know. see you again in the next life. I suppose the only certainty in this world is taxes.